Who can be the owner of an insurance contract? Here we're talking about a max-funded indexed universal life, an IUL policy. Well, you're going to learn a lot in this episode because the owner can be the insured, the premium payor, which is typical, but doesn't have to be. The owner can own a policy on other people in the family or even a business partner. The owner can be a bank. That's called BOLI. The owner could be a corporation. That's called COLI. The owner can be the family trust, who is usually also the beneficiary, while the insurance is on the children in the family bank or the legacy plan, okay? So get ready. I'm going to show you why it's so critical to understand the answer to this question. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been involved in helping people take out max-funded indexed universal life since 1997 when it was first introduced. And even before that, from 1980, when universal life was first introduced by E.F. Hutton. It was their brainchild. And when they came out with the idea, it was to be used for living benefits, which means they're taking out an insurance contract and taking the least amount of death benefit they can get away with under IRS rules. These are called TEFRA and DEFRA. And then they're designing it to accommodate the most money that the person wants to reposition to put into it as fast as they're allowed to fund it under IRS rules so that it will grow tax-free and they can access the money income tax-free. And when the insured ultimately dies, it blossoms, it increases in value and transfers income tax-free because nothing else in the Internal Revenue Code does that. And when you're structuring it correctly and funding it properly, then you can earn incredible rates of return where the cost of insurance actually goes down as you get older. People who poo-poo this, they don't understand. They say, oh, it's going to crash and burn. It's going to implode. I know right off the bat, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because if you structure it correctly, your cash value inside that policy will oftentimes grow to equal and exceed the death benefit required by the IRS within the first 10 or 15 years. But if your cash value grows to equal the death benefit, you don't need any guarantees in there because now you're self-insured. The risk to the insurance company is nothing. If you happen to die, they'll pay out 5% more than the cash value you had. But now your death benefit is growing with your cash automatically because you have self-insured. You've taken all the risk away from the insurance company. And it turns into a cash cow, tax-free. Now, when you are taking out an IUL policy to accomplish this goal, to be used as a living benefit, in another episode on this educational platform, Three-Dimensional Wealth, I talk about the 5 parties that are involved when taking out an insurance contract. What are they? There's the insurer, the insurance company. There's the insured, the one who has the life insurance on their life, that if they die, it pays out a death benefit. Then you have the owner. Now, the owner is usually the insured, but doesn't have to be, okay? You have the premium payor, the one paying the premiums, which is usually the owner, which is usually the insured. So usually the insured, the owner, and the premium payor are the same person, probably over 90% of the time, but doesn't have to be. Who's the 5th one? The beneficiary. The beneficiary is the one that's going to receive the death benefit when the insured dies. So you'll learn on another episode that there must be an insurable interest between the insured and the beneficiary, where the beneficiary will suffer economically by virtue of the insured's death. That's called an insurable interest or a reason and justification, or else the insurance company is not going to approve it, okay? But the owner is the one that gets all that tax-free income and tax-free growth. So I always recommend that if you're doing it for your money and you're 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80 years old, you submit the application and you can be the insured. You're trying to put the life insurance on you. You're the owner and you're the premium payor. Now, there's a myth out there that the older you are, the more expensive it's going to be, and so younger lives to insure, the IUL policy will perform better. No, No, I've dispelled that myth, hopefully, on this channel. The older you are and the more unhealthy you are, if you can still get approved even with a rated policy, TEFRA and DEFRA tax citations allow you to squeeze down the death benefit. If you were required to have $1 million of death benefit on a normal 60-year-old healthy to accommodate 500,000, okay? If you get rated, you don't need $1 million. You can drop it down to 900,000, 800,000, 700,000, and now the 500,000 will have the same rate of return as if you were a 25-year-old applying for the policy. It gives parity. TEFRA and DEFRA gives parity. It doesn't matter how old you are or how unhealthy you are. If you get approved, you can make the insurance policy grow with the best internal rate of return. If you earn an average of 11, you can net 10 like I have, no matter how old you are. Okay, there's a lot of agents that don't understand how to do that. Now, so always see if you can get the insured and the owner to be the same person in probably 95% or more of the cases, because you're trying to make sure the life insurance is going to blossom, because any money you have in there, it will transfer tax-free and usually blossom. So that if you took out $1 million policy because you were required to under the IRS guidelines and you ended up funding it with 500,000, well, that's going to blossom to $1 million if you died at that point in time. See, that's what I mean by blossom. If I died right now at age 71, about every $1 million in an IUL portfolio would blossom to about $2 million, okay? Now, I structure it so that that doesn't cost me anything directly. Nothing's free, but it doesn't cost me. It's being paid for with a minuscule portion of money that would otherwise go out the window in unnecessary tax. Because if I earn 11 on my IUL average and I net 10, my heavens, I'd have to be earning 15 or 16% in a tax-deferred IRA or 401k in the stock market to net 10. So that 1% is money that would otherwise go out the window in tax if I followed the herd and put my money in IRAs and 401ks. Does that make sense? So it's not free, but it's not costing me anything. My insurance is coming along for the ride, being paid for with a small portion of money that would otherwise go out the window in taxes if I did what most Americans do. Okay. So when you apply, if maybe you could not pass the exams and you were totally turned down, well, then you might want to put the insurance on your spouse. That's probably the best option for a surrogate insured, which I address in another episode. But see, you're still the owner. If you're the one that wants to have the tax-free accumulation of money and tax-free access, which is usually what the goal is with Max-Funded IUL, it's okay. You're still the owner of a policy that is insuring your spouse or your adult children or your grandkids or your business partner. So that if you have a business partner and you agree, I'm going to own a policy on you and you're going to own a policy on me, and I'll pay premiums into yours, so I have access to that and you can do that on mine. But if you die, okay, I'm the beneficiary, and then I'll have the wherewithal that I agree in writing that I will pay for your 50% ownership in the business so that your family is settled, okay? But that gives me the money to do that, and if I die, same thing, okay? But see, you're owning it on your business partner. You control it. And so the owner controls and can change the beneficiary. The owner can be paying the premiums. Doesn't have to. Sometimes the premiums can be paid by a business, the corporation, a bank. But a bank can be an owner. A corporation can be an owner. Maybe it's grandma and grandpa, and the owner is the family trust, and the insureds are the adult children. So you can have different parties wear any of those different hats. Does that make sense? So let's talk about if somebody else is paying the premiums. So when people found out in 2008 that banks were putting 30 to 40% of their Tier 1 assets. What's a Tier 1 asset, by the way? It's money that banks have to have invested in a very liquid, meaning they can get it when they need it, safe place, okay? So what happened in 2008? 400 banks went under in that mortgage meltdown. And 900 more were on the watch list, on the brink of going under. So the federal government asked the 5 major banks in America in 2008 to disclose where they had their Tier 1 assets for liquidity and safety. And on the average, the 5 major banks had 30 to 40% of their Tier 1 assets in insurance companies. Now, why? Okay, let me just take a quick side trip. Banks in 2008 were paying less than 1% interest, okay? Let's say 1%. So on every $1 million of OPM, other people's money that were deposited in banks, they only had to pay out $10,000 a year in interest at 1%. And by taking that money and putting it into insurance companies, they were increasing the safety, because a lot of these banks were rated BBB. A lot of these insurance companies are rated AAA. That's not 1 notch higher. That's actually 6 notches higher in safety. So they're increasing the safety dramatically of the money by getting it out of their bank and putting it into the multi-trillion-dollar insurance companies, okay? Some of the best money managers in the world. But the insurance companies at their general account portfolio in 2008 were paying 5% on money that was in these life insurance contracts. That's without even linking to an index. Did you catch what I just said? So in 2008, banks were paying 1% and turning around and making 5%. How much more is 5 than 1? Don't say 4. It's 500%. Let me put it this way. Would you hire an employee for 10 grand that made you an extra 50 grand? Would you buy a widget machine for 10 grand that made you an extra 50 grand? Okay, that's called a 500% return on employment cost or equipment cost. Business owners understand this. So they're increasing the safety, but also the rate of return. So that was an aha, and then people would ask, when I would disclose that, they went, really? Well, so how do they do it? Well, if they wanted to be tax-free, they own life insurance policies. And they go, what? Well, see, a bank or a corporation cannot put life insurance on a bank. See, a corporation goes on into perpetuity, or can, okay? So you don't put life insurance on a bank. The bank doesn't die. Life insurance is on people, okay? And so the bank is owning life insurance on people. What people? Well, their key board of directors, stockholders. They can own life insurance on those people. Now, there's institutions out there that actually buy life insurance policies from people who no longer want them, okay? That's called the life settlement market, because just do the math. So if you wanted to own a life insurance policy on somebody that no longer wanted it, let's say somebody had a $3 million life insurance policy and they no longer could afford it or wanted that policy. And they're in their early 70s. And so they, instead of just letting it lapse and let it go, I've helped many clients say, hey, you could sell that $3 million life insurance policy because you put a lot of money into it. You want to get all your money back and more? You could sell that for $1 million. And so we did. And so they got $1 million. They recovered all of the money they put into it at a profit, but they recovered their money instead of just letting it lapse. Why would a bank or a corporation or an individual want to do that? Because they look at their health and everything like that, and they go, $1 million investment, and if I keep paying the premiums, which the premiums for this were $100 grand a year. So if I pay $1 million and I pay $100,000 a year, it's still, he's likely going to die in the next 10 years because, you look at the life expectancy. And I'm going to get one great rate of return on $1 million plus $100 grand a year when he passes away because I'm the new owner and I'm the new beneficiary. Does that make sense? So see, owners of insurance contracts, they call all the shots. And the owner is normally the beneficiary in this situation. So banks, BOLI, bank-owned life insurance, they own it. They may be the premium payors paying money into the policy, and they get all the cash value, they get all the growth because now they own it. But when the person finally dies and that money blossoms, in this example, to $3 million, they get the $3 million. So they get access to the money, they get tax-free accumulation, they get the tax-free death benefit. Where else can you get a rate of return like that tax-free? Okay? So that's why banks own life insurance. And that's why corporations own life insurance. COLI, C-O-L-I, is corporate-owned life insurance. Corporations own life insurance on who? Well, usually it's the sole stockholder or the stockholders of the corporation. So I've had closely held corporations, and my corporations, I use COLI in order to have the corporation experience tax-free accumulation, tax-free access to money. And then if I died, it's like Keyman Insurance, the corporation gets $1 million, so it's able to keep running when I check out. So see, you have COLI, corporate-owned life insurance. And I helped a lot of clients back in the day where they would take out a personal life insurance policy and they sort of would like lease it to their corporation as Keyman Insurance. But then when they finally retired, all of the excess cash value that had accumulated in it went over to their personal income statement or their personal balance sheet, because now the policy that they owned, and they sort of rented it out, they leased it to the corporation under the IRS rules at the time. All that money was overpayment, and so it accumulated cash value. Now they get to own the policy, but it's been kept in force during all the years that the likelihood of them dying wasn't that great, but if they did, the corporation would get the death benefit and the cash value. And then after that was over, then the individual owns the policy. There's a lot of incredible ways that the owner of an insurance contract can benefit, because if you're using Max-Funded IUL, the objective is usually the tax-free accumulation of the money you're putting in there and the tax-free income you can get, and then down the road, the death benefit. The owner gets to name the beneficiary. The owner gets to access money. The owner gets to determine how much they're going to put in and the money they're going to pull out and when. Does that make sense? Now, the last is a trust. A lot of times a family trust can be the owner of an insurance policy. So under a trust, they own the trust owns the policy. The trust is usually also the beneficiary. Okay, and so, but the insurance is put on maybe the members of the family, the children, the grandchildren, the patriarch, the matriarch, but the actual owner and beneficiary is a trust. So hopefully this is helping you understand the critical importance of the owner. The owner is the one that calls the shots. Normally the owner is the insured and the premium payor, but doesn't have to be. And hopefully you understand now some examples of when they would not necessarily be the insured or even the premium payor. So if you want to learn more and understand this, I would recommend you claim a copy of my book, The L.A.S.E.R Fund. This is a 300-page book jam-packed with charts, graphs, explanations. You flip it over, there's actually 2 books in one here. This side is 62 actual client stories of how this is the dream solution for all kinds of goals when you maximum fund it, okay? Now, when you go to Amazon, you can get it for $20. And if you do, thank you, but I'll gift you one free. You simply go to laserfund.com or click on the link below. And when you're in there, you will contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I require a little bit of skin in the game, but I'll cover the rest of that and I'll pay for the book. I will fire out a hard copy to you of this book via priority mail. But when you're in there claiming your free copy, if you like to listen and learn or watch and learn, there's audio and video formats available. But here's an opportunity I don't want you to pass up. When you're in there claiming that, you can actually schedule a quick consultation at no cost or obligation with a certified IUL professional. This is somebody that has had to pass a proficiency exam that is not easy. Most advisors wouldn't even score 25% on this exam because they wouldn't understand 75% of the questions. They have to score 100%. 95% doesn't cut it. They have to score 100%. So you can talk to them and they're not going to charge you for their time, and you can see how these strategies may apply correctly in your particular set of circumstances. Because if you don't get it done correctly, you may end up wasting a ton of money with a non-performing IUL that wasn't structured correctly. And you're not obligated to take it out through them, but if you want to, because you have a good relationship, you can move ahead if you choose. But you ought to take advantage of at least a quick consultation with a certified IUL professional.